And this is testing, a little thing that you can clip on. Is that good?
All set.
All set?
Good morning, everybody.
There you go. You can clip it on if you want, or whatever you want.
I walk around a lot, so if I
And
do
just to so Paul knows that I wasn't fibbing, I did send you the questions, right?
I do have questions, yes.
Perfect. All right.
you take care.
Yeah, I'll come back in here.
Yeah, I know. I
All right,
look around.
John,
I
we'll
see
talk to
ladies
you after
aren't
the-
welcome
Okay,
here.
yeah,
I'll just
that's
bolt
fine.
out of here. Get out of here.
So, to start, everybody, thank you. I think I was here about 3 years ago with a few of you were here, a couple of different people. Again, I'm Sean Hamilton, General Manager of Sterling. I've been General Manager here I came back, I should say again, for 10 years. So my second run, I was here from 92 to 99. This is the end of my run. Darren is recently appointed as Assistant Manager. Over the next 6 to 8 months, we'll do a transition period. And I'll be going to retirement after 42 years in the industry. So I always enjoy doing this. That's why when Darren come down today to have an opportunity to do this, I think it's important we get a chance to get out and talk to you about what we're doing, what's going on at Sterling Light. As I say, we're owned by the people we serve. We're your department, and trying to serve you the best we can. I've got some notes here. Feel free to throw out questions as we go. If you got something different, if I'm not covering things. General discussion about Sterling Light is, we are in good health. Financially, we're pretty good health. We've got some great stabilization funds to back us up. We've got some good depreciation funds that have been built up. By law, we have to put 3% of our funds away into a depreciation fund to replace capital. We've replaced pretty much our trucks, a lot of the circuits. We've done a lot of work down the substation. We're going to upgrade the substation now to put the new circuit breakers in. That's a project Darren's been working on. Just a lot of things we've been going on with. Our OPEB is 50% funded, so we are taking care of the retirement and the healthcare, so it doesn't fall on the ratepayers in the future, to make sure that there is a substantial amount in there to cover the future obligations of the department. And a few of the things going on is AMI, the Advanced Meter Infrastructure. I'm going to hit on a bunch of stuff. We have a lot going on down there, so I apologize for going fast and talking about a lot of things, but we do have a lot going on. We've had a lot going on for the last 10 years. But first I wanted to talk about was the Advanced Meter Infrastructure. Sterling in 2008 was one of the first municipals in the state to put in the Advanced Meter Infrastructure. Basically what that does is we no longer have to drive to your house, walk up through the snow and get the meter reading. We push a button, we get your reading within an hour, hour and a half. All our bills are sent out. They're sent out to be billed and recorded. Since the new system was put in 2008, things have changed. Technology as a whole has changed dramatically. So a lot of the stuff that we do, we can no longer do it real-time data. We can no longer store some things. We cannot upgrade and put the things we want to do, like an outage management system. The system we have is, Darren has built, using what we have called SEDC, our system. He's built an outage management system that allows us to know when you go out of power. In the future, we will tell you, you go out of power, you'll notify us. We'll send a text, email, whatever you prefer, to tell you, we know you're out of power, we're working on it, and we'll have someone coming out there. Without a phone call, without a communication, it'll automatically be done. Because we need real-time data to do that, our system right now can't. The plan is to replace this system over the next 2 months. The project's gone out to bid extensively over last year. We've reviewed the thing from consultants. We've negotiated. We've got the best price we could get, and the system's going to go into play in the next few months. The other part of this thing is what they call a predictor. Do you want to talk about the predictor a little bit?
Yeah, so to sort of speed up our reliability with the outage management system, with the notifications we get from the metering, it'll notify us about which meters are out and also predict what upstream protection device it's actually all the outages go back to. So all it's going to do is really speed up our restoration times and be able to get your lights back on quicker than what we're doing today. So as far as our outage reliability, we have gotten national awards on our restorations of averaging 62 minutes per outage. So with that, This will just help increase that number that much more. So we're just constantly trying to, harden our system and, lessen the amount of time that you guys are actually out of power. So all this is sort of working back to keeping the reliability and keeping the lights on for everybody in town. So.
The other thing that when I talk about the old technology, that old technology is 12 years old. In the technology world, that's a long time. Talking the other thing, I know, Paul, one of the questions you asked about was 2 Leominster Road. What's going on with 2 Leominster Road?
Yeah, that's from everybody.
Yeah, that's a real good question because, excuse me. That's a real good question. 2 Leominster Road, what started out is, we bought that building quite a few years ago. It's the old gas station, and the roof was leaking last year pretty bad. So we started to review the possibilities of what it would take to replace the roof. And that was just basically rip the roof off and put a new one down. In the discussion points of the roof and the future and the storage and things that we don't have, it came up that maybe this is a time to do something with the building. We were very fortunate because we talked to Monty Tech, who we've worked with in the past when we redid our main administration building a few years ago. And they came on board to work with us to put a second story on that. So we were going to get that built and closed, and Monty Tech was basically going to take over the inside of the building. Unfortunately, we all know COVID came and Monty Tech closed down, the kids went home. So we did lose them partway through the project. But we didn't stop because we already had pretty much started and on our way. The line crew pretty much took over the remaining work. We have a great group of guys over there that multi-talented. I mean, they were doing the carpentry. We hired an outside plumber. We brought in a general contractor who worked with some guys to kind of keep things going with our guys. And through the group, we're probably about a week away, I think, from the final inspection to move in there. Everybody's asked what the building's for. Downstairs, we had one small little office, and we had a little area in the back where the linemen would gather. And that was pretty much it. The rest of the garage was used for just trucks, just storage, trucks, inventory. Now, with the upstairs, we have actual training room. We do like 6 to 8 training sessions a year, whether it's CPR, various training, manhole training, things like that, where they have classroom attendance that we have to do. We have to do 8 of them a year. We do 10 or 12. This gives us a facility or place they can go to actually do the training now. With, we have the proper screen in the background with an area they can spread out, do the CPR and the things they got to do. We also put in decent bathroom facilities. That's something we've lacked with 8, 10, 12 guys running around. Never mind during a storm when you have other people come in, you had that 1 or 2 bathrooms, and 1 bathroom primarily available. So we expanded that and have additional bathroom capacity for the guys, along with showers. One thing I found coming to Sterling in the 90s, I've never had poison ivy in my life till I came here. And for whatever reason,
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. For whatever reason, this town has got a lot of poison ivy. And we've got a lot of guys that have issues with it. So as part of the plan, we put in the showers. So if they get into the situation now, we've even had guys that go to the hospital for shots because the poison ivy is so bad, and poison sumac. So we've actually put in showers now that allows them showers and stuff. Just a little more comfort level. I mean, you all remember the 2008 ice storm, which I hope we never see again. This gives us a better area to accommodate the guys, house them, give them a place to stay. They were sleeping in their trucks before because we had nowhere really to put them. So that was another part of what the building will offer to us. We've put in LED lighting. We've put in the most efficient energy, what they call mini splits, energy efficient heating and air conditioning up there that you could buy. It's very well insulated. It's very quiet in there. You can't hear this. You can't hear Route 12 when you're inside the building. So it's come along really well. Like I said, the line crews stepped up. They really stepped up to finish the building for us. And hopefully next week we'll go through the final inspections and be officially moving in, get the dumpsters out of there, get the trailer out of there, and kind of get it back to normal. And maybe next spring look to do the parking lots over again and stuff. So we'll finish it up next year. Any questions on 2 Leominster? And one thing I should point out is that we did not incur any debt on this project either. This was all done with funds in hand, with our own labor. We bought a lot of local materials, locally sourced from Hackney, from our own customer in town. So we kept our own businesses and going at the time. And the guys did most of the work, so we weren't paying out large contractors or prevailing wage or any of that stuff. So worked out pretty well for us financially too also.
Is that classroom available for other departments in town?
It isn't at the time for two purposes. One, it's not ADA compliant because it's designed for the line crew only. We have an office downstairs in the event we have to accommodate someone for ADA compliance. There's a small office downstairs, the entryway, but it is designed pretty much for their training and stuff like that. It's going to be like a meeting area, but then they can move stuff out, frame, and then put back, you know. So I'm not saying rule it out, but at this time, it's hard to say without the ADA compliance, you know. Because we do have the other meeting room across the way at 50 Main Street that is ADA compliant. So that's where we hold all our meetings, public meetings and stuff. So there's questions about the fiber. The fiber kind of came about as a roundabout way. We've talked about fiber in town for years because we have so many different, between the substations, the solar, the batteries, the capacitor banks, reclosers, they all talk to each other or talk to us, and you know, we know what the loads are going on, we know what the problems with the system, we can monitor things and see what's going on through all these different pieces of equipment. They're all tied together with communication, internet, and we rent lines and stuff through Comcast and others to get the communication in. And we've always talked, because we have one line that was actually put in 1995 from the light department to the substation that we use to monitor the substation real time. And we've always talked about tying the rest of the stuff together. What happened was this last year, I should say, they had a grant come out, and the grant was specifically designed to tie all the town municipal buildings together. So we worked with the town on that. The town did, you know, give credit to Fred Aponte from the town who did a lot of work on it, and Ross. And we submitted the grant and got the grant for $150,000 to tie all the buildings together. When we started doing the buildings, it was, where do we feed this fiber from? Now we've got all our main buildings in the center of town tied together. How do we feed it? In a discussion with, his name's Michael Hale. He was the former manager of Shrewsbury Electric Company. He just retired this past summer. He said, we feed Sterling. So we started talking about it. And in the conversation, we got talking to West Boylston and Boylston. They said, well, you can come through our town. So basically what we did is we took the Sterling Light Department crew, Selco, Shrewsbury crews, West Boylston and Boylston crews, and we ran a 432 or large, very large fiber from Shrewsbury to Sterling. 23 miles of fiber we put in the air using the various crews and departments. Again, no debt to the department. We used a grant to tie to get the cables, and we used our own labor to get the job done. So there's no debt to the department, but it gave us a real good base for a fiber. And the light department now, as of last week or 2 weeks ago, is now officially on the fiber. We're running off the fiber from Selco, and the other municipal departments, I think, are
Probably the next week.
within the next week. Well, the town departments, including this place, will all go on the fiber. We've got there's 26 departments or buildings or assets of the town that will all be tied together for this first phase of the fiber.
Is there a lot of work tying in, like the senior center and then the schools?
No, the school's not on the first pass. We'd have to negotiate with the school. We're not a distributor. We're not an internet company. So right now it's town assets. And that's a regional. You have to go through choose it. We have not approached them yet. It's right here though. It's on the street. It's not a lot of work. That's the thing. It's not for these areas. It's not a lot of work. We have access with conduits. We have access other ways with overhead into the buildings. All the fiber is in these buildings and ready to go. We've already done all that. Now it's just we lit it up. Now it's just not knowing. I'm not a fiber guy. I don't profess to be, but they're going to patch over the fiber from the light over to the other one. So that's, like I said, in the next week, we're ready to go. It's there. It's like one light's here, one light's here. They're going to put the patch cord between the two, test it, make sure they're working, assign the proper addresses to it, and they should be up and running. The good news about that, not only do we get a grant for $150,000 to pay for a lot of this, the savings. Fred Aponte did a study on what we all pay for communication between the different departments of various things. It's about a $60,000 a year savings to all us departments for communication. So, and we're not all in different communication. We're regionally sourced, one spot, one area. I think it'll work really well for the town because it's gonna, looking out to the future, it's, you know, now you look at security measures for the town, and we can put cameras in certain places, we can do other things with buildings and do stuff with the fire department, and things, there's a lot of more opportunities we can do with it. There's a lot of people asking us about, are we going to offer fiber to the home? We're looking into it because it would be foolish not to. In this day and age, everyone is using the internet. In talking with other departments who offer this, fiber is to the home is the big thing. It's direct shot. It's all light. And it's, you know, not much loss. And especially with the COVID situation, a lot more people are home, so they're really recognizing the internet. And I think thirdly, cutting the ties to the cable TV. They're getting off cable TV and they're using their internet to provide their cable TV. Speaking with the regional municipals and other people that do this, 9 out of 10 customers that sign up now sign up for internet only and not cable TV. That's what I'm being told. So looking at all that in the numbers, you know, we're doing a survey to see if customers are interested, first of all. We're doing, Darren's working with a company called Matrix. We're doing extensive return on investment to see if it's, you know, it's financially feasible. We're not gonna just go out and do it because it's the right thing to do or it's something sexy to do. We wanna make sure it'll work right. Right now, the numbers come in incredibly good.
I was just gonna make a comment that if you charged half as much as Xfinity, you'd make a ton of money.
You know, we know we have costs, and you're right. You know, we have our actual costs too, breakdown, because we know we've just run 23 miles with our own crews, and then we got into Sterling and did a lot of our own work. We know what it costs to run now. We have actual numbers we can put to it. And our costs are about 50% of the industry standards. They do a return on investment for the industry standards on a project, they have a number. We put our actual numbers against them, we can reduce almost 40 to 50% because of the labor costs. And our guys, we have an awesome crew of linemen who do a great job. One of them actually just retired last week, 2 weeks ago. And another one just left. He went to go to an Eversource or one of the IOUs. They work a lot of overtime. But we brought in 2 new guys, Brian Fitzgerald and Kevin Ronan from the 2 apprentices that just started this week. So we'll be getting them training on our own. Then we start from the bottom. We start them right off the street. One's got some generator and electrical background. The other one comes in with a great mechanical aptitude. I think they both could do a great job for the department. They both recently just started. Just trying to see if I have notes here. I think so. Yeah, that was one of the things I was. Questions. There's a lot of questions about the solar. The sign you see in front of the Sterling Light Department, every month you see that number change. It says the solar kilowatt hours on it. That's the amount of solar kilowatt hours generated within the town of Sterling. That's what our projects do with the 2 1-megawatt units down on Wiles Road. We've got the community solar project on Choxet Road, and we've got the Perkins project right down the road here. Combined each month, they generate quite a bit, you know, and that number I just keep adding. So at the 39 million or 38 million, we're up to, I think I figured we could do all the residences in Sterling for a year and a half on the solar we've produced already. Every house in Sterling for a year and a half of what we've produced.
And that's over 8 years or 7?
That's over, yeah, that's since about, actually almost 10 years, about 10 years. Perkins started about 2011. In 2013, and I think the other one on about 2018. So combine those 3, we just keep the number going. But there's a cost in there that you don't see. Besides getting low cost energy from that solar, what we also get from those is during peaking days, although our peak used to be at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, which is perfect. The solar was always on, the peak is down, we save money. But because there's so much solar now, the peak's getting pushed out to later in the day. There's not as much solar available, so we don't get as much of a benefit on the transmission peaks. But with every kilowatt hour that we buy, you can figure we're saving about 2 cents because we're not paying transmission costs for that. It's generated in town. We don't have to put it through the substation. We don't have to buy transmission companies. You know, so to date, that's about a $750,000 savings that we've seen, just as an ancillary savings on that solar. So we've provided quite a few benefits to us. But the issue you run into is two of the projects are 25-year. We got about 15 years left. One of them is going to see end of life. When the state of Massachusetts came out with their program, the SREC program, it was very lucrative. It was a $600 for every megawatt, plus you got the tax deductions, plus you got the accelerated depreciations, and they had the 1603 grant in the beginning. So solar was just a, as one customer told me, it's a cash cow, get in the game. That's what he said to me. So with these attributes running out, we're now looking at how do we keep these things going? How do we keep them in play? And that's where we're using the batteries. We're taking like the community solar, we store it in the batteries, and at night we take it and put it in the system. When the sun goes down, solar's not being used, prices go up a little bit. That's when we use the stuff in the batteries that we store from the solar. It works out very well. It's an arbitrage that serves us very well. As far as I think the questions were on individual home, does an individual home affect Sterling Light's financials? Not really. Aggregated, they can do some damage. And the reason I say that is on September 2nd, 2014 is a graph that I use with the DOER. I've used it in Washington. I sat down with FERC because it shows what happens when solar goes away. On a peak day on July 15th, everyone's pulling demand, solar's doing well, and here comes a thunderstorm. At the worst possible time, a thunderstorm came and took the solar out. Our cost of buying a kilowatt hour was 55 cents on the market at that time. So when you're selling your kilowatt hours for 12 and 13 cents, you're gonna start buying it for 55. It's not a good combination. Stuff like that, the batteries will help us, and there's other things. But it goes to that we can't get fully dependent on solar. It's not an anti-solar speech. I'm not anti-solar. I'm pro, look at all the options. When we look at peak days right now, we're 70% gas, natural gas. People don't want to hear that because the fossil fuels. But right now, this summer, we were 70% natural gas. So we have to find a way to mitigate the carbon emissions. We have to, but also at the same time, make sure we do it correctly. Because if you go all in, if you saw what happened in California, the rolling blackouts, a lot of that is because of their dependency on the renewables that weren't there. Had they not disconnected all their natural gas plants, they would have had a lot of the power still available. I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm just saying you just got to slow it down a little bit. And like I said, 42 years I've been doing this. The last 5, things have accelerated very quickly with a lot of local groups pushing agendas through legislators and other ways that we just got to be careful that we just do it slow. That's all. Yeah, I talked about the batteries earlier, and I'd like to update this because the batteries, to date, we've saved $1.4 million with those batteries by avoiding peaks, by doing arbitrage, by everything. So that's since 2016 that those batteries, and we've got the 2 battery systems now. So combined, they've done about 1.4 million. It just goes right back to you. We don't do anything with that. We put it back in the rates. Our rates have stayed the same. In fact, since 2010, we've gone down about 25%. A lot of times you'll see on your bill that it's called a PPAC. That's called the Purchase Power Adjustment Clause. The reason for that is to see what we budgeted to what we actually cost. If there's a we go lower, you get a credit. If there's a little more, we bump it up. And very rarely we had to bump it up. Really, we've been giving back the credit quite a bit. So it's worked out pretty well for us. And the other question was on solar. Was about there was another question on the solar. I have it here. I want to make sure I answer all your questions. Oops, go ahead.
There's a proposal for a 219 unit 40B to be put in town.
Yes.
How's that going to affect our rates?
It's not going to affect your rates at all. I can tell you that because we've been working with them. In fact, they're electrifying that. They're not going to go with carbon emission equipment. They're going to they're going to electrify it. We've worked with the developer since the beginning. Darren has a great relationship with them. We've worked with them to put in efficient mini splits in the thing. They're putting in we just got a grant working with them on for electric vehicle charging. They're going to put 6 units down there, 12 units.
Six pedestals, 12 charging stands.
As a grant, that was a grant from the state to put those there, and all LED lighting. So they're super efficient down there. He's done all the things we've asked him to do. The rates, because lately the market has, because of COVID, believe it or not, the businesses have slowed down with their load. but residents have gone up. But there's still a 3 to 5% reduction in the use of energy around. So there's a lot of excess energy around right now. We've locked the most of our rates for long-term. We do a lot of long-term purchase power agreements. So our rates are pretty good for a while. And we see these rates, we come out, we know they're coming on, we anticipate them coming on in their load, and we'll purchase that power ahead of time for quite a few years. So they don't have an impact on us. When SMC left, things like that happen to the system that we can't anticipate. That can have an impact on us. We have to mitigate that because another company, 2 other major companies came in and absorbed that power. But overall, we're pretty good shape. We're not exposed very much to the market, and every year we do a power supply analysis to make sure that we're purchasing what we need. We've got a backup for the solar. We've got a backup for the hydro, because solar in town we have, if it's on like right now or today, is 43% of our load. We can produce 43% of our energy using solar. But we also, if it's cloudy, if it's raining, if it's snow, we have backups in place to take care of that.
In the recent past, I saw a program that talked about kind of mini, instead of having like one substation or generating facility, mini units scattered that all work together to do this, whether it's solar, wind, or whatever. The thought crossed my mind that the biggest landowner here in Sterling is the MWRA. Have you thought about or approached them about using some of their land for creating mini circuits or whatever those are called?
What they call they call DR, distributed energy resources. And it's a solar here, it's a wind, it's a hydro, and they tie them all together. We're already kind of doing that. We have 7 hydro contracts in our power supply. We own Berkshire Wind. There's 2 Berkshire Wind projects out in Western Mass, in Hancock and Lanesboro. We own 5.3% of those. So our power you're seeing here today is coming from Lanesboro and Hancock. We've also got the 4 solar projects in town. We've got, we own part of Stony Brook, which is a generating plant in Western Mass. We own part of Millstone, which is a nuclear plant in Connecticut. We own part of Seabrook up in New Hampshire. So combined, we've got a good base load. The MWRA land would offer us maybe some more solar, but we're on the high end of the solar. We were actually, 2013, we were number 1 in the country out of 2,000 utilities for solar watts per customer. Sterling was number 1. And like in 2015, we were still in the top 10. I think we're still in the top 50 today because we have a lot of solar within our system. So if we put more solar in, we might go too far the other way. And I always go back to 2015. If you remember, we got 110 inches of snow from January 25th to March 10th. We got no solar during that period. Solar was covered. So to go all in on solar is risky. I personally, I've never said this out loud to me, I'd love to see the Clinton Dam resurrected. I'd like to see the generating of the Clinton Dam done. There's technology now that could go in there and probably do a great job with it.
What prompted that thought was every time I drive by John Blanchard's up on Justice Hill Road, now I see homes being built,
Yes.
there, which is rather discouraging. But nevertheless, I believe most of his land was purchased by MWRA as watershed. That would seem to me to be maybe a decent spot for wind generation.
Citing wind, and you know, I wasn't here when it happened, but the town of Sterling put in some very stringent bylaws for wind, anticipating what you're talking about. I don't think it was a pro decision. A lot of very tough restrictions on wind. Not that it can't be undone,
Yeah.
but it'd be a lot of work. I was having sited a wind turbine in Templeton. I worked on it for almost 6 years to get it sited. They're a lot of work. Wind turbines are a lot of work, and you're in a very low market where the ISO or the independent system operator of New England is buying bulk power. They're buying more and more of that power. So instead of us having to put it in here, we can buy it from them. You still got to pay transmission, which keeps going up, and that's what I mentioned about the peaks and keeping the. But it's a great idea. And I think that's the future. Instead of I'm all for instead of transporting all long distances. When you've heard about the Hydro-Quebec project, you know, the state wants to buy all this hydro from Hydro-Quebec, but we still don't know the transmission cost today. They've negotiated contracts with energy, but I still stand here today, don't know the transmission cost. And You know, I said to people, why would I buy it if I don't know what it costs? I mean, no one else would buy anything else.
Is
So-
hydrogen part of the mix?
Hydrogen, not at the moment. Hydro. Hydrogen is, yeah, but actually just lately they've come out with some modular nuclear reactors. They're 10 to 50 megawatt reactors that are almost like self-destroying or self-contained, completely self-contained units that you can place and without any environmental problems afterwards, they're saying.
Long before any of us were born, Sterling's main power that powered a lot of their mills and stuff was right down here on Still River. Has any research been done to see if we could harness any of that power for hydropower?
I looked out to, we have, like I said, the 7 of the contracts, we have 4 of them are done with Run of the River, they call them Run of the River Hydro. They're small little hydros in the rivers like this. And I reached out to 3 people that I respect in the industry. They did a study, like they looked up at the Wikipiki up in Johnny Blanchard's area. They looked at the Still River. They couldn't come back with anything that said, you know, this is justifiable. I looked at other areas where I live in town. I have a look at those too. The work, I actually printed out one day. I went to the DEP to do a small hydro, like a 40 kilowatt hydro, more as a school demonstration type project. And they sent me a file that they had to break it up like 4 or 5 times. It was so big. I'm an old guy. I print stuff out. I put it in manuals, and I like to read it. And it came out about this thing. And they said it would take you 4 to 5 years to get the permit. And you know, for something that's going to light a few street lights, it was just, I had to put it down. So the short answer is we did a quick, 10,000 foot look at. I'm not saying things have changed or, if economics or technology. I know there's some technology now, instead of the horizontal turbines, they got some vertical turbines, which may be able to do something like that now. So I think that's
So John?
Yeah.
Is there any, what's the future for adding either solar or more battery storage?
We're talking to manufacturers. We're talking to see what's out there to add more batteries to existing projects. I think that's the future of solar, is to store it. And as more and more solar comes online in the afternoon, there's so much of it so cheap that we have to, get it, use it at night. So I think that's the future. We always had generation, we had transmission, we had distribution. I think storage now is part of the equation.
I'm just curious, because you turned the battery system into a moneymaker for Sterling. So if we had double that storage, would we be making double?
Well, the market's changed because everyone else did that. You saw how well things are going, especially for us, and everyone else jumped in. So now you have everybody doing that. So I think now it becomes a different business model that you have to take your solar and say, we're going to take our solar at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where it's 2 cents, put it in the batteries, and at 6 o'clock at night when it's 7 cents, then we're going to release it. Then have the batteries available for resiliency, have them available for other things. Still be able to use it for that peak shaving stuff, but for the most part, we're just going to keep it for what they call arbitrage or load shifting. Yeah, I think the big thing with us is the latest talk is the fiber. I mean, we hope to, if the survey goes well, the ROI goes well, we'll see what the future brings. But the board's been fantastic to work with on it. They understand it's technology, it's the way of the world. Everyone needs the internet now, and that's what we're trying to keep up on.
I would just like to make a comment about you and the department. I think probably many of us here can remember going to town meeting, and every few years there would be an article to sell the municipal light, just to raise money, I guess, for whatever reason. I think many of those people who thought that then might change their mind now. Under your leadership, that department has grown, has prospered, and certainly represents modern technology. And I would tell you that I'm very proud to live in a town with a department like that, where I go and talk with friends of mine from other towns, and they talk about their electric things and bitch and complain. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Number one, and it's it's really, it's great, the types of projects that you've taken on, very cutting edge stuff, and I commend you and the entire department for how well it's being run.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. First of all, thank you very much. But you're right. It's the department. I have a great set of boards. One lives right across the street. And they, you don't do this individually. It's a team effort. The board is, you put these finances out for like the battery. We spent, we got a grant for $1.5 million, but we still have to spend $750,000. And you go sit in front of your board and tell me you spend $750,000 on batteries. We're very fortunate that the caliber of the board members we have, and you elect them and put them on there. And they're the ones that have gone along with this. And then they have Darren and the crew install these things and then come back and say, no, don't hire electricians or don't hire these guys to pull. We'll pull the cable. We'll put this conduit in. What I didn't tell you about the batteries is that line crew, that project from the time we were here, October 12th, 2016, and we had a little barbecue with all the dignitaries and all the people here. And they left here and started digging the trench for the foundation. In 33 working days, that project was up and running. December 16th, which we worked 4/10s, that project was up and running, which speaks, like you said, volumes to the line crew that we have. I preached to them about those times because, by the way, I was at that town meeting. In 1992. I'm ashamed to say I smoked at that time, so I used to stand outside and the lawyer from Mass Electric would come out. We'd be standing outside having a cigarette.
How much money were we going to get?
$1 million. We were for sale for $1 million. We were going to give up the debt for the Chocolate substation. The town was going to take over the thing. And there was a lot of frustration in town because I heard at the town meeting, I joked with the lawyer. I had the Sterling Light shirt on. He said, we're going to change that to Mass Electric. And I said, and then I came out and things started to turn a little bit. The vote was negative, but I heard you. I heard everybody. I tell these guys every day, we were this close to being sold, which would have been a horrible decision. So when you talk to the board or the staff or anyone to try to do these projects, it's for you guys. It's for us.
I don't mean to dominate this. I served a little time on the board, and it goes back to our large purchase of Seabrook,
Sure.
which was a bit controversial. And also, what was controversial was buying the land on Chocolate Road from Jim Center to build that substation and move it from
Press Junction Road, which, and I was also here the night that a car went through it and they patched it. And then I wasn't there when the car went through it, but they patched it to get it going. And then just shortly after that, a raccoon took out the rest of it. At the same time, we were able to shut down that substation, go to Chocolate. Had we not been able to, this town would have been out of power for a little while. But it's those, I go to Seabrook, and Seabrook at the time was, their advertising was going to be so cheap, you don't even have to meter it. That's what they were telling us. We know how that worked out. But because of the contracts that we signed, and you sign a contract that it's a take or pay contract, we as municipals and others that agreed to buy Seabrook had to take the output. When Vermont Supreme Court allowed them to get out of Seabrook, when they were forced out of Seabrook, all of their stuff came on to us. We had to take it. We had no choice. So we were taking on more debt than we wanted, but because of the way the contracts were written, we had to. Today, that's 2 cent power. 2 cent power. It's the energy. We still got the transmission, the other stuff associated, but the energy itself is only 2 cents. So kudos to those that stayed the course because it's proved to be a very good power supply. And now Seabrook has just got approval for the silica testing. You've heard about the concrete, there's fishes, the concrete, and they just approved the testing method that was done down at Texas University. So now that the testing's been approved, that it'll be approved for its 30-year extension. So with a 30-year extension, we just paid off all the debt last July. We have no debt on Seabrook right now at all. So again, back to the power supply cost for the future, that's going to be rock solid. That's what we see happening. So, yeah, I'm glad to give you a chance to talk about that because I do remember that town meeting. There's not a lot of nice things said about it. So there's some that stood up. There was, and you mentioned John Blanchard, Mr. Soul, but John Blanchard is the guy who stood up and said, "How many guys are you going to put in town?"
Yeah, right.
And when they danced around the question long enough for him to say, "How many people are you putting in town?" And when they didn't answer the question, he said, "Well, Leominster's next door." He goes, "I know what Leominster is, but how many guys?" they kind of, the tide kind of turned a little bit. I think if National Grid or Mass Electric said, we're keeping our guys in town, this might be a different name, you know? So.
That's good.
So, okay, so, yeah, any questions, concerns, you got any comments, please send me emails, I get them all the time. Have an answer, like I said, Darren's been here for 12 years.
Going
He's
on 13.
going on 13. He's done the AMI. He's working on the fiber. He's running your operations crew. He's the guy that's running the crews out there. So I can chase the grants and do the other things. So
One other point, if you get the fiber in, you're gonna force Comcast and Xfinity to come down. They have to come down with price because there's competition.
they've done that before at other places, and that kind of makes it hard for making business decision on if you do that and then they drop their price, can you drop yours and compete? And you can only go so low.
They're gouging us because they're the only game.
Yeah, well, there might be a new game in town. I'm not making any promises though.
Yeah.
You know,
Another question, underground.
Yeah.
You got any plans like Sterling Center, like, I guess they're gonna be doing some work in Sterling Center, are you gonna be going underground there?
Yeah, so the town approved the proposed, estimate that they got from Verizon for doing the infrastructure work down in the center of town. And, so I forget what their numbers was, but the town approved the numbers, and then Verizon has to go start creating, job estimates and, infrastructure designs. We're gonna do a lot of the conduit infrastructure. We did all the road crossings for them when they, repaved the center of town, so we just saw the availability to, well, they have it ripped up, let's put them across so we don't have to cut brand new concrete, or asphalt, I mean. So a lot of that, I think I've had the system designed for down there for maybe 5 years now, but just sort of waiting on, Verizon and, waiting for the town to be ready to sort of move forward. So I know there's talks about, the next step and stuff like that, and then, once they give us the go-ahead, we're ready to go. So I think the ball's like in Verizon's court now about getting their site plans and designs and infrastructure layout, so then we can put the conduits to how they want their system to be designed as far as that. So
Isn't there a bundle of conduit that goes through the center of town? That was put in years ago. It must have been.
well, we did all the road crossings when they just repaved it.
40 years ago.
Like, I want to say 2016 conduits bundle that ran on the right-hand side of Main Street as you headed south.
No, so we just did, I think we did 5 road crossings
who's talking before that?
yeah, nothing that I know about.
Yeah, I think there's some main stuff going from Munster to Worcester right through the center.
Someone might want to look into that. They were buried when I think the state did over Route 12 originally.
Verizon's whole network in the center of town is underground.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Maybe that's part of it, but there were, I want to say 12 or 16 separate conduits.
Sounds like what they built.
Yeah, so if the conduit's owned by or installed by Verizon or Comcast, we just can't go and commandeer the conduits. And plus, the way the infrastructure could be laid out wouldn't match for our, system design and being able to feed the library, the First Church, any of the other businesses and residentials right in the center of town. So, but we got to be able to just keep, switching capabilities. If we have to isolate a section, cable goes bad, and be able to keep as many people on with minimizing the outage to the most minimum amount of people as we can. So, yep.
When I moved into town, I live on Upper Oxford Road. When I moved into town, my next door neighbor and myself would turn on an electric stove at 5 o'clock. The power circuit breaker would go off on the corner of Hayward Street. So Mr. Wright finally came down to a temporary transformer at my house so we could have continuous electricity. I cannot believe how well knowing municipal life has come in the past 60 years in this town. Like I said, when I first moved in here, up on our road was a disgrace as far as power supply was concerned. Unfortunately, they had going to do something with Highcrest Farm. Unfortunately, the owner of Highcrest Farm didn't pay his taxes, took off in Cuba. And Sterling Light is better about up to Oxbow Road. Now it's beautiful. I really appreciate what's happened
Yeah.
over that period of time.
I was here. I went up there. I might have gone to your house. You had 107 volts. And every time you guys turned the lights on, it dropped, and the neighbors were complaining, and the lights were tripping. And that was part of the Pratt's Junction problem, that we had the old substation that couldn't get the regulator. The regulators were maxed out and couldn't get the voltage any higher up to you. And that's when we switched everything over to the new substation, put the new circuit up there in the 90s. I remember running the circuit up North Row and Upper North Row, and that solved the problem. That was one of the problems, one of the many problems, but in a small town, for Sterling, it was just a few guys that we had from 92 to 99 when I was here. We put in like 350 houses for services. I mean, there was a lot going on in this town at that time. So as they're building, service was getting worse because we couldn't get to those areas. I think since that time, with the real estate cooled down a little bit for a little while, we've changed a lot of circuits. We've upgraded a lot of cables. We've got what they call the Hendrix system you see in town right out front here. That's one of the best you could buy. That's got the steel cable up top with the 3 wires below. If a tree comes down on top of that, most of the times it'll hold it up with a pull top brakes. That's how good that stuff is. So thank you. But yeah, we've invested a lot of money for those purposes.
And the last storm we had, and we lost a limb, a tree on up and Oxbow Road, it evidently just bounced off the wires. I lost power for a minute, and evidently the circuit breaker had to reset itself and came back on. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, so actually what we started trying to implement as well for, long distance like laterals, like single phase roads, like Upper North Row Road and like Holden Road and stuff. And we're starting to roll out a lot more of them is instead of just having a one-shot fuse at the start of the road to feed down there. So if there's, incidental contact with a bird or something downstream, it'll just blow that fuse until the lineman comes out, refuse it, puts it back in. What we have now are single phase reclosers, which they go in just like a fuse, but what it'll do, it'll open up the power, let that fault clear, and then by itself close back in. So that way, not having to send a truck, on-call guy, and pretty much restores power on its own. So it's almost a self-healing system now. So we have 3 of those in town now. We actually just put in an order for another 2. We're going to start adding them to these like long distance laterals, or even a lot of our single phase laterals off the main 3-phase system. So just to try to, going back to, keeping the lights on, keeping reliability, resiliency, and work towards a smarter self-healing system. So just to be able, yeah, they do. Yeah, because we figure for each time one of those fuses blows and we have to send 2 guys in a truck out on an overtime call, roughly what, $400, $500 per time. So on each, if we had 5 operations on that, that's 5 times we didn't have to send a guy. That's $2,500 in savings right there just by implementing that one device. So, and if we start doing that all throughout town, it's just gonna multiply by that much more in savings and cost for the town.
Just one thing, I'd like to commend you guys on the tree maintenance too. The preventive maintenance, call it whatever. It's been doing great in Sterling there. Other towns, they lose power. We didn't.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things going on there. One we're on a cycle. We're on a 5-year cycle. Credits to Tim Gray, the working foreman. He's an Everest. I mean, he comes from a tree. He came up through Lewis Tree, came here. We came up as a lineman, so he understands it. And we work with the DPW a lot too on taking down these big dead trees. We get them taken down. They come along with their equipment and take them out. So by doing that, instead of hiring a tree crew to do the whole thing, we cut the cost in half. And the trimming program, we gave them our old bucket truck, so they take care of some of the stuff that we used to have to take care of. So we concentrate on the lines now, and with that, we're capable. I think we're on our second cycle around the town. Each time you get a little better. So we've been very lucky. I'm not saying we're perfect. Trees still come down because that one 30 feet in the back you don't see comes out of nowhere. It takes everything with it, but for the most part we've been staying on.
Any other questions? Well, we'd like to thank both of you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck in retirement.
Thank you, thank you.
And we appreciate you coming back after a short time.
I like this town.
Yeah,
Wait,
we
not
all
long.
come back, you hear?
Sterling's a great town. Yeah, no, it's a great town. You got a great town. The department's fantastic, good people. You know,
Right.
It's,
That's
so
great.
it was
So thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Before
guys.
you go, I want to introduce Mo Iorio. He is next month's speaker. He's going to be talking on life after the military. He's retired Army. And
Now, I always have good information. I learned a lot from that man right there.
so Mo's our next speaker. We'll see you next month.
All right.
Thank you just for that.
Shut this off.
She'll come. I'll do that. So